field of journalism?
I began my career as a journalist when I was 17.
Okay.
Back in October of 1972. And I was really working as an engineering draftsman and answered a newspaper advertisement that ZNS had asking for reporters. And they hired me the very day that I applied because I did a voice test and they liked my voice, and I had qualifications in English language and English literature that they thought were necessary for the job at the time. And so I started in October of 1972 at ZNS. Stayed at ZNS for 6 years. And I came out of ZNS in 1978 and started a public relations and advertising company called the Communicators and Associates. And the Communicators and Associates is still pretty much alive today, even though Jones Communications came out of the Communicators and Associates. So it was the Communicators and Associates that really started the Bahama Journal. The Bahama Journal began on the 24th of September 1987, and we had the Bahama Journal as a weekly newspaper. We published it every Saturday. And then the Free National Movement came to power in 1992, and we got a license for radio. And it was in 1994 that we started Jones Communications, which was the parent company for Love 97, and all of the other organizations then were taken in or were absorbed by Jones Communications. So the Communicators and Associates, the Bahama Journal, all of them were absorbed by this company called Jones Communications. And because we were doing newspaper, radio, and then eventually television, we call ourselves the Jones Communications Network. That is how the network came about, JCN. Okay? So, Bahama Journal in 1987, Love 97 in 1994, and JCN Television came about in April of 2007. Those companies make up the Jones Communications Network. Now, in addition to that, we have published a number of books on a variety of topics on the 275th anniversary of the Parliament, the 30th anniversary of independence, the 40th anniversary of independence, Bahamian Legends 1 and 2, and then we did a bestseller called the 100 Most Outstanding Bahamians of the 20th Century. So all of these publications, we have done those and more. And all of these things make up the Jones Communications Network.
Okay. It's interesting because Jones Communications, it's the only media that includes television, radio, and newspaper. So, like, what was it that inspired you to have all three?
Well, we always had very well-trained staff. And we thought, since we owned this facility here on East Street with the number of buildings, and we had the competent staff, we had the expertise as well as the space to do all three. And it was always our mission and objective to revolutionize journalism in the Bahamas. With the Bahama Journal, we thought at the time when we were a weekly that the daily newspapers were not going beyond the surface and analyzing the news, and the Bahama Journal did more news analysis than the other newspapers. Then we wanted a radio station that was highly independent, that disseminated news in a very objective and dispassionate way, because people had lost confidence in ZNS and they thought it was government controlled and all of that. So we wanted a private station operated by young professional journalists who were totally independent and who were quite prepared to produce and disseminate news in a very objective way. And then with television, it's the same thing. We thought we should have a news driven television station, news and current affairs. So you would see on our television station, you don't see movies or sitcoms. You would see just mainly news and current affairs programs that are quite educational in nature.
Okay, well, speaking about television, do you think in the near future that you guys will expand the television programming to like sitcoms and probably
No. We'd always be a kind of CNN, MSNBC kind of thing. Unfortunately, the market is so small in the Bahamas. We do not have the kind of market to support television in the way that it should be. And quite frankly, I'm disappointed in the slow growth of JCN. I thought by now we would have been able to do more things, more programs, cover the islands of the Bahamas better. For instance, today, the family of Dr. Miles Monroe holding a press conference in Grand Bahama as we speak. And we should have been able, and we should have had the capacity to run that press conference live. By now, we should have been doing these things. And so the growth of media in the Bahamas is stunted by just a bad economy, an economy that sometimes seems to be indifferent to what we ought to be doing in the production and presentation of news and current affairs in the Bahamas. So that is the disappointment that I have with JCN television. I believe that we are doing what we ought to do with radio. We have become the dominant radio station in the country, insofar as we cover more islands in the Bahamas than any other private station. We have a facility in Grand Bahama, a station in Grand Bahama, Love 97 North, that covers Grand Bahama and the Abacos. And through cable television, we are able to reach other islands during the course of the day on cable TV. So a whole lot of people listen to our programming on radio on cable TV. Even in New Providence, people tend to have their televisions on when Issues of the Day is on, for instance, and they listen to the program on television.
Now it's saying that the three entities, I know you mentioned that you guys own the building. Were you always here on East Street?
For radio and television, yes. We started the Communicators and Associates in Charlotte Street in 1979. That is the company that really got all of this going. But we bought the first building here in 1990. And we kept buying properties. So the main building where the radio station is was purchased in 1990. In 1995 or thereabouts, we purchased the press building, that is the long building there. where all of our press equipment and graphics and television production is. And then we even gone around the corner and bought a building around the corner. So we used the revenue to acquire property in the area. And it's a good thing we did that.
Okay. The way the three entities were set up, was there a particular reason why, or was that the time for that to come up? Like,
well, it just evolved.
okay.
Jones Communications evolved to what it is today. And in the evolution of Jones Communications, a whole lot of people came through our doors. The vast majority of young journalists who are operating in the Bahamas today were trained in Jones Communications because we provided the atmosphere for them to grow. And with the proliferation of radio stations, some of them moved and went to help start other radio stations. And that is another reason why the growth of media, the quality of media in the country is not as good as it is, because we have in the Bahamas what I call quantity, and we don't have the quality. We have a number of radio stations that came about, and the experience, the expertise in those radio stations are not there, because there has been a diversion of talent from other entities. For instance,